Hello and welcome back to You and I for the Kenai. This episode today is the second part of a multi-part series we're doing down here at the LeeShore Center. Today we're going to be talking about crisis intervention and victim support, and we're back here again with Renee and Ashley. They might be able to tell us a little bit about that. I think the first aspect all of us would like to talk about is the 24-hour crisis line.
Yes, thank you. We do a 24-hour crisis line. It is available and staffed by professional advocates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That crisis line is 283-7257. And this is when someone is in the middle of crisis, and it can be a variety of crises that individuals may have going on, to give us a call and let one of them advocates talk with you. And maybe sometimes it may not be a situation where we can help you immediately, but we're going to find that resource that can help you immediately if we're not it.
And there's a lot of aspects within that 24-hour crisis line that are really nice components of it. You offer transportation services.
We have limited transportation. We have a vehicle that is available during business hours.
Okay.
But we don't have the ability to do transportation.
Well,
24
law
hours.
enforcement will bring individuals to the shelter if they need the transportation to get there. Generally, they will assist in bringing clients to the center. I know they have some taxi vouchers that sometimes they can use to assist with transportation, but we know that that's one of the biggest barriers in our community right now is access to transportation.
And as people access the crisis line, can you kind of tell us, is there, you call and there's somebody on the other line? Is that a peninsula or is that like a nationwide thing? Like, is it staffed by, LeeShore staff?
It will be answered by a
The
member
crisis
of the
line.
LeeShore advocacy. Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
one of our advocates that will answer.
Okay. That's comforting for, for people, especially on the peninsula, to know they're kind of
Yeah, it's someone
talking to
local
somebody
who's
that
going to know
kinda
local
knows.
resources and has that research and information.
Okay. And that's 283-7257, 24 hours a day. It would be nice if crisis never occurred. That's not going to happen. It'd be nice if crisis only occurred between the hours of 9 and 5, but that doesn't happen. So it's really cool and I think really valuable to the people in the community to know that 24 hours a day, if they need somebody to talk to or they need some help, that they can call the crisis line. Is this accessible to like children and adults, men and women? Who would call?
Our advocacy services are available to all.
Okay. As well as being able to call, I believe there are also crisis intervention services that people can access by walking in to LeeShore.
Absolutely. Even if there isn't anyone in the office, we are always staffed with advocates who are available to help. So it is not uncommon for new clients to come in after hours or in the middle of the night whenever they need to for their safety.
So LeeShore for crisis intervention and victim support is there pretty much 24 hours, 365, phone or in person.
Absolutely.
If you need help.
We're there, and we want people to know that we also have services available for men in our community. We realize that there's kind of a stigma around that, and people see it more as services for women, and we're really hoping to deter that. It doesn't matter what your gender is. LeeShore is here to support you. We just aren't equipped at this time to house men. However, our executive director is looking at that as a possibility, which would be great. So just stay tuned for that one. However, we want the gentlemen in our community to know as well that we're there to help you, and there's different ways that you're going to get the same level of advocacy. We just may go at it at a different direction.
Yeah.
And then we always want to let people know as well that we have translator services, because sometimes
okay.
that's a barrier to accessing the services that we have. So we have brochures, we have a language service that we call in, and then they interpret the conversation for us and the victim.
And you can find all those brochures on your website, can't you?
Yes, you
If I
can.
remember correctly.
That's really nice that you mentioned that. I think, especially like in a small town here in, Soldotna or Kenai, that language barrier can be really hard on top of these other barriers that victims may encounter. So I think that's a pretty fundamental piece that that is being offered, and it's good that our listeners know that. LeeShore isn't equipped to house men at this point, but they are equipped and have been equipped to house women in their shelter. I know there's other shelters as well, but as far as crisis intervention and victim support shelter, what is the shelter available?
For women and their children.
Okay.
Who have
And
been victims of domestic
violence
violence
or
Yeah.
sexual assault.
And is that, I think if that's a 32 bed
Yes.
facility?
32-bed emergency shelter, safe housing for women and their children who have been victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And then we always like to throw out there that we do accept pets on approval.
Wow.
Knowing that that's a dynamic that may keep a victim from leaving,
Yeah.
is that they can't bring their pet.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really nice that we are able, Ashley might have a little more information. We built a brand new kennel last year.
Actually, we upgraded our kennel 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I know they've seen from snakes to cats to birds to. So, it says upon approval, and at this point I'm not sure that we haven't had any that weren't approved if it means the safety for victims.
The only real stipulation we have is the animals that require shots, like dogs and cats, are current and up to date with their shots, and we work with Kenai Animal Control to make that happen.
Oh, so if they're not like up to date and someone shows up with their pet, you guys will work with
We'll work with
them
the
to get
city
them
of-
their shots?
Yeah,
It's not
for
like,
the city
sorry,
of
gotta
Kenai
go.
or local
Okay.
vets.
Well, and that's
Okay.
what's cool about the kennel.
Yeah.
At least they can be, kind of kenneled until we can make sure that they're safe to be around.
Yeah,
people and
that's
other
great.
animals.
That's great. So that's no real barrier there, in fact. Yeah.
We have specific rooms designated for folks with animals because of allergy concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not, it's not come in and get 6 dogs, but it is available for folks who need to utilize that resource.
Would you say, like, on any given day, there's at least one pet that's being housed?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, or more.
And that's really interesting. I took a health psychology course a couple years back, and basically they've done different research around pets and its effects on its owners and stuff. And really, to sum it up, it basically said like having a pet is good for you. I mean, and that was pretty much the bottom line. Like they evaluated it from a ton of perspectives, and everyone was pretty much like, it's good to have a pet, like just across the board. And you think like, oh, this pet's gonna shed, or oh, this pet's gonna pee on my carpet, or oh, this pet this, but like essentially, they controlled for all these other factors, and at the end of the day, like people who had pets were like emotionally and physically happier and had greater well-being. And so I think that's really cool that LeeShore incorporates the availability for pets to be there, and to be a part of people's lives.
And the reality is, if a pet does not exit with the victim, there's a very high probability that the perpetrator will take out their aggressions on that pet and they will not survive the night.
Wow.
So we have always allowed animals to come into shelter. We just happened to get a newer, nicer kennel a couple of years ago. But yeah, it is a major hindrance for folks trying to escape if they can't feel secure that their animals are going to be okay.
And I don't believe there's many shelters across the state that do accept animals. We're kind of,
There's a handful now.
yeah, the few. And I'll say LeeShore was probably one of the first to say, look, this is a key component to helping victims leave.
As far as people that are navigating some of these difficulties and they're getting into the shelter, they're calling the crisis line. If people have, immediate legal needs, I think that there is legal advocacy that LeeShore can offer. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, all of LeeShore advocates are trained to assist survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault with the justice system. However, we're fortunate enough to have a legal advocate that is housed at the courthouse. She's there Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, and I want to shout out her number because it's a really cool thing to have someone there for people. Her name is Krista, 283-8543. She's right there. She's available. You just kind of walk on down the hallway, and if you're not sure where she's at, you can ask in the clerk's office, and they'll point you in the right direction. And I'll tell you, she works really hard over there. So we see a lot going on in the shelter with our walk-ins. Just in FY18, we did 1,066 walk-ins. Well, over at the courthouse, I mean, she's doing a lot of work. We were able to provide legal advocacy to over 7,000 community members right out of that
Jeez.
courthouse and support 112 victims with protective orders.
Wow.
So we can see that it's paying off to have her
Yeah.
over there. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to come to the LeeShore Center.
Right.
But if somebody says, hey, you don't got to go to the LeeShore Center, they got a legal advocate right over there at the courthouse. It's kind of that free zone, you know. I can get in there, and you know, everybody goes to the courthouse. It's okay to be here, and she's there, and she's an integral part of that legal support for victims. Not only, you know, having to do with the shelter, but anybody can walk in there. You wouldn't have had to have been signed up for any of LeeShore's programs beforehand to access her advocacy in there.
I do want to make a point to say that she is not a lawyer, so she's not giving legal advice. She is helping folks with protection orders or understanding the judicial process. So don't go in there and be like, hey, I need a lawyer for my, you know, divorce case. We don't have that, but we will try to help you find some
It's
resources.
advocacy, not attorney.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
We'll make sure
Yeah.
there's a very distinct line there on
Sure.
what that service is.
Sure.
So.
Well, I think, you know, especially today, maybe for a long time, you know, you start to hear legal, you know, at least myself, like I get a little bit overwhelmed, you know, so much goes on in that world that I just am so unfamiliar with. It's like, fortunately, I've never really had to, but if I ever had to do anything really in the legal world, you know, I would need to get an attorney and I'd have no idea where to start. And it's like, fill out this protective order, file this, do this. Oh, you're going to have the court at this time and this motion and this, whatever. And I'm just like, I don't know what 80% of this means. I'm stressed out. I already, you know, especially if you're a victim and you have all these other things going on, it's just another thing of it's totally unfamiliar territory. And you're saying, you know, you don't have a place, you're not familiar with where you can be safe, we have a place for you to be safe. You're not familiar with who you can talk to, we have a crisis line. You're not familiar with where your pet can come, we have a place for that. And you're not sure how to navigate this judicial process, we have an advocate that might be able to, you know, help walk you through that. Really, it sounds like when a victim needs it, you're there for that in a lot of ways that otherwise would be terribly overwhelming. And I suppose at times is overwhelming, but at least like you kind of can take their hand through the process and they're not completely alone in that.
Yes.
Well, and it sounds like a lot that you want the only barrier for someone to have to overcome is going out and doing it. But the rest, if you can make that as easy and convenient as possible, I think that approach is perfect because, you know, when you're trying to do something that's very emotionally difficult, the last thing you want is have a bunch of complex things you don't understand, you know, all coming at you from different directions and trying to maneuver that and figure that out on your own. I think it's really great what you guys are doing and really distilling it down. So it's like, hey, you just got to make this choice and we'll really help you with the rest. But that's it. You know, you just have to make the choice. You have to, you know, be there.
I think that's, you know, important. And I think people need to understand that a lot of times victims go back. Because it's so overwhelming. I've got all of this stuff coming at me, and I'm in this communal living situation, and all this legal stuff that I need to sort through, and it just would be easier. And they do, and we understand that. But we're going to be there the next time they come back. And each and every time that a victim accesses our services and our support, we hope that we empower them just a little bit more. If we can't all the way, then a little bit more, and we kind of keep feeding that, and hopefully eventually they're able to just, you know, succeed in that break and move on with their lives.
It takes an average of 7 incidents, typically before a victim will leave. So there's cultural differences and stigmas and isolation, especially if you're out places where you have to fly or take
Alaska
a boat
really
out of.
speaks to isolation.
Yeah. So it's important for people to know that typically this has been going on for a while, and you didn't get into it overnight, and you're not going to get out of it overnight. But every time they come in, we're going to do our best to hopefully make sure it's the last time, but if not, we're going to be for you here next time as well.
And we're going to be as kind and supportive every single time. Because I think, too, as a victim, I've already been to the shelter 3 times. They're going to get sick of seeing me. No, we're not. we're there every single time you decide to.
I love
And if you
that.
go back, we're going to be there the next time you decide to.
And I think that speaks volumes to understanding when victims or people in those situations hear that. And you say, we understand that people, want to retract their stories. I don't know what Kenai's little paper that they produce from time to time, it's the Court or something like that. They had a little piece on the Violence Against Women Forum that we were all at.
Yes.
And part of that was, I know Crystal from Naini, who was on the panel, she had said that it gets really overwhelming and that people want to take their stories back. And I think you guys, by saying, like, we understand that, not only do people want to take their stories back or want to literally go back, we see that happen. You're not gonna lose your credibility in our eyes. So you come here, then you go back, and, you might think, oh, these people will never understand. I can't go back now. And you're saying, no, like, we understand that this happens. We understand why this can happen. And we're here for you. And we're not going to give up on you.
It sounds like a huge part of that approach is really when they're coming back, instead of saying, why did you go back? Or
What took you so long?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like instead of saying that, your approach is, thank goodness you're back. We're so glad to see you. We want what's best for you. And to really keep that in mind instead of an accusing of, oh, really, you fell into the same trap. It's, we understand that you are struggling and just please let us be there for you. And I think that's it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really great approach to people who are hurt.
Thank you.
So that was some of the services for crisis intervention and victim support, some of those readily needed immediate services. As we said, one was the 24-hour crisis line. And what was that number again?
It's the 283-7257.
I saw something on here earlier that I wanted to mention. The LeeShore Center's advocates conducted safety calls.
That's right. And they will continue to do safety calls with victims for as long and as often as they would like to have them. So an advocate will call you twice a day. They'll call you in the morning, make sure you're okay, you're safe, and they'll call you in the evening. They'll call you 3 times, however many times you want. We're there for you. We're there to, show that we have that continued support. And that's a lot of calls to be making. A lot of them are tied to our Batters Intervention Program. For the gentlemen who are attending that program, the advocates will call the victim while they're in class just to see how it is going and, catch up with them, because we're hoping that we're starting to break down some of these belief systems, and, we hope that it's getting safer, but we're going to keep calling as long as they would like us to.
Those advocates seem absolutely crucial. I want to shout these guys out. I mean, obviously I don't know a lot of them personally, but from my notes and our notes as well, it seems that they do a lot, just a lot of other needs as well. Like from what I'm reading here, assist victims in finding safe, affordable housing, accessing medical care, legal services, all that other kind of stuff. What I love about it is not just like come to LeeShore and we have absolutely all the answers. It's come to LeeShore and we may not have every single aspect of your unique situation, but we're absolutely going to do our best to get you those together. Resources. Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. We have all the support.
Yeah.
Right, and we could not do this without the support of our community partners. We work with so many different agencies and entities to get these folks whatever it is they need. Kenai Indian Tribe, PCHS, the CART system, the cab companies, 25 agencies easily that we work with. Reentry Coalition, Change for the Kenai, Kenai Public Health.
And there's still some out there we haven't found yet.
Right.
We're going to find them.
We're going to find them.
Yeah.
Maybe we haven't seen that unique situation, but we're the individuals that are going to dig in and find out. If they're here, we're going to find out about them. And if they're not, we're going to find that out as well, and where's the closest place that you can find those types of supports. But I don't think that people accessing or community members accessing LeeShore are finding there's not much that we can't do for them.
Yeah.
And we're really going to reach out to them, and we're going to reach out to all those partners. This is a great community of resource agencies and supports. It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
Well, to wrap things up, if anybody needs somebody to talk to, if anybody needs a place to go, if anybody needs somebody or a group of people to really kind of take their hand in a place that can be difficult and unfamiliar. There are a variety of resources that LeeShore really comes together to offer. And as we mentioned, those include the crisis line, the shelter, legal advocacy, walk-in services, not just for women, but also for men. Thank you so much for letting us, kind of hear about all of these different resources, and we would encourage people to, if you're in need, to reach out, but also, let your community members know that these services are available, even if you don't think necessarily that they might need them. As we talked in an earlier podcast, like 52% of women, have experienced violence on the peninsula in their lifetime. So even if you think like it's not a common thing, that's 52% is quite a bit. So thank you so much. This is Eric and Aaron and Kobe and Renee and Ashley with the LeeShore Center. You and I for the Kenai. Thank you very much.
Thank you.